Welcome back to the MOOC course titled Corporate Social Responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And this lecture and the next lecture will be a continuation of the theories of CSR. Now we've discussed several theories, we've discussed them in bits and pieces. Now what we'll do is I will help you understand how these theories can be categorized or how they have been categorized. There is a paper by Garriga and Mele. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. And this paper is Corporate Social Responsibility Theories Mapping the Territory, and it's been published in the Journal of Business Ethics, volume 53, number 1 and 2. And so this is August 2004, and this discussion is based on this paper. What they have done is they have taken the entire gamut of theories on corporate social responsibility and summarized these theories into, or categorized these theories into 4 different categories, and that is what we will be discussing in this lecture and the next lecture. So let me share that with you. Okay, so they say that the entire gamut of theories pertaining to corporate social responsibility can be divided into can be categorized into 4 categories. These are instrumental theories, political theories, integrative theories, and ethical theories. So I'll share each of these with you in great detail. Okay. Now, instrumental theories. What are instrumental theories? Instrumental theories assume that the corporation is an instrument for wealth creation and this is its sole social responsibility. The ultimate goal of any corporation is to make money, and its sole social responsibility is to contribute to the economic wealth of the society that it functions in. Any supposed social activity is accepted if and only if it is consistent with wealth creation, and CSR is a mere means to the end of its profits. So that is what this theory says, that whatever social activity happens, it only happens for the wealth creation. So only for the creation of wealth does the social activity happen. If it doesn't contribute to the wealth, then it is not going to be integrated with the corporation's basic responsibilities or basic operations. Now, some groups of instrumental theories. The first group talks about maximizing the shareholder value. So, a group of theories within instrumental theories talks about maximizing the shareholder value, and in this, these theories that talk about maximizing the shareholder value talk about any investment, and they say that any investment in social demands that would produce an increase of the shareholder value should be made, acting without deception and fraud. Honestly, if we can honestly generate money, if we can honestly generate profits, we should go for it without deceiving anyone, without engaging in any type of fraud. In contrast, if the social demands only impose a cost on the company, they should be rejected. So if these social demands, the society has certain demands, if they add costs to the company, they should be avoided. These theories also say that the socio-economic objectives are completely separate from the economic objectives. So these objectives are not really a part of the regular, of the economic, of the financial objectives of the company. They are a separate issue altogether. Okay. The second group of theories in instrumental theories talk about strategies for achieving competitive advantage. How can social activities add to the competitive advantage of an organization? Now, these theories say that these theories are focused on how to, they talk about they are focused on how to allocate resources in order to achieve long-term social objectives and create a social competitive advantage. The approaches that these theories use are social investments in competitive contexts, natural resource based view of the firm and its dynamic capabilities, strategies for the bottom of the economic pyramid, which means how can organizations achieve competitive advantage with through their social activities. And these strategies are then focused on, or these theories talk about how the activities of the organization can be focused on how to allocate resources in order to achieve long-term social objectives and create a competitive advantage for the organization. The approaches in these theories can further be divided into three broad categories, and those are, some of these theories talk about making social investments in competitive contexts. Some others talk about natural resource based view of the firm and its dynamic capabilities, and yet others talk about strategies for the bottom of the economic pyramid. Let's see what each of these are. Approaches to strategies for achieving competitive advantage. So how do you, the social investments in a competitive context could be philanthropic. When we talk about social investments, so these theories are talking about philanthropic investments that are perceived as having better social value than any other investment. They say that if you invest in philanthropy, that will add to the perceived social or higher perceived social value of the organization. When philanthropic activities are closer to a company's mission, they create greater wealth than any other kinds of donations. It's not about donations, but whatever you're doing, if whatever you are doing through your social activities is in line with the vision of your organization, that will give you a better goodwill, or that will generate a better goodwill than any donations that you may make to help the society. So you say, this is what we are doing and this is what we are helping you with. I had once told you about an example of a pharmaceutical company setting up a free dispensary. So that is, these two are related. A software company setting up, say, computer training workshops for students in schools, not in a place where people don't have enough to eat, but maybe offering free workshops in schools where children already have access to computers or can have access to computers. So it's just along the lines of what they're doing and maybe what people can also need. So something like that would be in line or would be synchronous with the mission of the organization, and that would generate a lot of goodwill, much more goodwill than any other activities. Then philanthropic investments by members of a cluster, either individually or collectively, can have a powerful effect on the cluster competitiveness and the performance of all its constituent companies. For example, if all the pharmaceutical companies got together and said, okay, let's pool in our resources and we can do this together. So different companies are manufacturing different kinds of medicines, and so if they all pool in their efforts and say one pharmaceutical company specializes in the research and development on medicines for cancer, for example, or palliative care, or child health, or different kinds of diseases. So they say, okay, we will all distribute free medicines in this particular area, or we will set up dispensaries to help people with these things. So that is, it adds to the competitive advantage of the entire cluster of companies, and that in turn will give them that will add to the goodwill generated by this cluster of organizations, and that in turn will help the cluster of companies get a competitive advantage. People will say, yes, everybody makes medicines, but this group of organizations does this positive thing, this group does this for the benefit of the society, and that generates a lot of goodwill. And this is what these theories talk about. They say when you do these things, or they provide different examples of all of these things. Now I'll show you which theories talk about these things at the very end, and you can dig more and get more references. We don't have enough time to delve into each of these theories, but I can just give you a brief overview of all of these theories. Okay. Then the third group within strategies for achieving competitive advantage is the natural. So the second one is natural resource based view of the firm, RBV, and dynamic capabilities. Resource based view says the ability of a firm to perform better than its competitors depends on the unique interplay of human, organizational and physical resources over time. Now, which of these resources? So, how do we use these resources in tandem with each other? That is what helps the firm, that is what determines whether the firm is performing better than its competitors or not. And how are these resources interacting with each other? How are they functioning over time? Now, how do we decide which of these resources we need to pay more attention to? So, the resources for competitive advantage should be valuable, rare and inimitable. Inimitable means they cannot be copied, or there is very less chance of them being copied, and the organization must be organized to deploy these resources effectively. So, these resources should be valuable, they should be rare, people shouldn't be able to copy them, and the organization should be ready and willing and able to use these resources to the best of its ability, and at that time they will add to the strategic competitive advantage of the organization. These theories, this group of theories says that if we look after our resources, if we use our resources wisely, we can, or especially to the benefit of the society. Now, we are talking about CSR, we are not talking about corporate strategy, but these theories say that if we use the resources wisely, we can generate goodwill, we can do, we can do good for the society, and we can also benefit as a profit making organization just by paying attention to the resources we have, getting the maximum out of the resources that we have, choosing our resources wisely and using those resources wisely will help us get a competitive advantage. Okay. Dynamic capabilities approach within this says dynamic capabilities are the drivers behind the creation, evolution and recombination of resources into new sources of competitive advantage. And organizational and strategic routines, these are, what are these drivers? These drivers are the organizational and strategic routines by which managers acquire resources, modify them, integrate them and recombine them to generate new value creating strategies. So, it is not only getting the resources, it is identifying resources that can help you, getting them together, getting the maximum benefit out of them together, combining them, putting them together, generating something new that is ongoing. So, there is a sustainable element also to these resources. It is not only getting resources and using them, it is having a sustainable cycle of the use of resources that can help you get a competitive advantage through your social activities. And that is what these theories talk about. Okay. The social and ethical capabilities, within the dynamic capabilities, the social and ethical capabilities include a process of moral decision making, making decisions that are right and good for the stakeholders, for the concerned stakeholders. Okay, the process of perception, deliberation and responsiveness or capacity of adaptation. You should know what you are dealing with, so you should be able to perceive it, you should be able to think about it. Perception, deliberation and responsiveness or capacity of adaptation. The third here is the next type of capabilities include development of proper relationships with the primary stakeholders, which include employees, customers, suppliers and communities. And Hart has proposed a strategic capabilities model in 1995 through which it is discussed that there are the interconnected capabilities are pollution prevention, product stewardship, sustainable development, and the critical resources are continuous improvement, stakeholder integration and shared vision. So, when we talk about interconnected capabilities, we are talking about preventing damage to the environment, preventing pollution, product stewardship, championing our product, serving the product, not only developing the product and using it. When we talk about stewardship, we are talking about serving the product, using it for the betterment of society or channeling it for the betterment of society, sustainable development, continuous improvement. Then, which are the critical resources? These are continuous improvement, So this is when we're talking about processes, we are talking about a cycle of continuous improvement. We are talking about integration of stakeholders, getting them together, getting them to interact with each other, getting them to form teams, and at least finding out the, assessing the interplay of stakeholders and getting the maximum benefit out of that interplay and a shared vision. And this is the strategic capabilities model that has been proposed by Hart. Strategic capabilities model. Okay, thank you. The next is the strategies for the bottom of the economic pyramid. That is another approach to strategies for achieving competitive advantage. These are strategies that can serve the poor and simultaneously make profits. Now we are talking about something very, very interesting. It's not only making profits and giving the extra to the lesser advantaged populations, or putting the extra in for the welfare of the society. It is serving the poor and simultaneously making profit. So we have disruptive innovations. Disruptive innovations are products and services that do not have the same capabilities and conditions as those being used by customers in mainstream markets. As a result, they can be introduced only for new or less demanding applications among non-traditional customers, with a low cost production and adapted to the necessities of the population. For example, a low cost basic cell phone. I'm sorry I couldn't get one to show you here, but a very basic, the cell phone with buttons on it, and I will not tell you, I don't think it's appropriate for me to mention the name of the company that manufactures it, but you all probably know. I'm not talking about a smartphone. I'm talking about a basic cell phone that you can use to make calls in emergencies, that you can use for SMSs, that you can use even to download music from the internet. Now, this is a basic cell phone that doesn't have any of those smart screen capabilities, but this is a cell phone that you will find that every rickshaw wala, every laborer will probably carry, and this has become more of an emergency device. I remember the time when these cell phones used to be a luxury for us. That is no longer the case. A basic low cost cell phone is something that people carry. They invest in it, they know it's very useful. The people who come to help us, our helpers in the house, the cleaning crew, they come and they know that they can get, people with cell phones get more business than people who do not have any way of, or who cannot be contacted. So you have somebody helping you in the house with your cleaning, you let the person know that please don't come on such and such date, please come early. The person concerned has a way of getting in touch with you, letting you know whether they can come late or early. The person, the cleaning lady in my place calls me and lets me know if she's going to get late, and because she's so committed to coming on time, I will, I'm quite happy with her. So I'm just telling you that was not the case. How would you send messages? But all she has to do is she just gives me a missed call. She doesn't even spend a penny. I call her back and say, okay, what's going on? I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Great, fantastic. So that these things are catering to the population that is really struggling to make ends meet. Now, because she is committed, because she is sincere, I will recommend her to 10 other people who need help with their cleaning. So their business grows, so they know it's a worthwhile investment, and this is disruptive innovation. She doesn't need a smartphone. She just needs a basic device that she can use to contact people who she works for. And that is such a nice thing, and this then helps companies, these kinds of innovations help companies get competitive advantage. Why? Because these things are easily available. People who don't need fancy devices will just invest in these basic technologies, and they will in turn take away a part of the market share. They will start eating into the market share of higher priced technology. So that is why they are called disruptive innovations. You don't need a fancy, yes, technology is great, but maybe you don't need such evolved technology for everybody. So if as long as these basic cell phones are available, the market share of the smartphone industry is going to be eaten into by people who can only afford to invest in these very basic services. So, so that is, again, these are strategies for the bottom of the economic pyramid. Cause related. Now, the fourth group here is the cause related marketing. Cause related marketing seeks product differentiation by creating socially responsible attributes that affect company reputation. You add to the socially responsible attributes and your company gets an advantage. What is cause related marketing? It's the process of formulating and implementing marketing activities that are characterized by an offer from the firm to contribute a specified amount to a designated cost when customers engage in revenue providing exchanges that satisfy organizational and individual objectives. For example, music concerts. For example, you have these programs on television. So various programs in which occasionally they'll call celebrities, and these celebrities will say, okay, if I win this prize, I will take this money and contribute my winnings to such and such NGO. I will take my winnings and give back to the society in such and such manner. So these kinds of things are, this is cause related marketing. A particular company sponsors that show, and then they have these marketing strategies, and that helps them get a competitive advantage. Okay, we are not only giving a donation, we are sponsoring this music concert, we are sponsoring this program. This proceeds generated from this program will go towards this specific social cause. Okay, the goal of cause related marketing is to enhance company revenues and sales or customer relationship by building the brand through the acquisition and association with the ethical dimension or social responsibility dimension. So you say, okay, we are doing this for the good of the community, and that is how we will be known. This is one company that contributes, that gives back to the society in this particular manner. Okay. Political theories. The next group of theories that we will talk about, that Garriga and Milley have proposed, is the political theories. Political theories, then they talk about the social power of the corporation, and they say that the social power of the corporation is emphasized specifically in its relationship with society and its responsibility in the political arena associated with this power. This leads the corporation to accept social duties and rights or participate in certain social cooperation. Now, what happens in these theories? There is, the principles for managing social power are, there are two principles. There is the social power equation, which says the social responsibilities of businessmen arise from the amount of social power that they have. So, the more social power they have, the more their responsibility towards the society. That is the social power equation. And the second principle here is the iron law of responsibility. This was proposed by Davis in 1967. Both of these were proposed by Davis in 1967. And the iron law of responsibility, we've discussed this earlier also. This is whoever does not use his social power, or whoever does not use his social power responsibly shall lose it in a democratic society. If you have power, you don't use it, for the welfare of the people, or you don't use it responsibly, you will tend to lose it. That is the iron law of responsibility, and these are the principles for managing social power. So we are talking about political theories. Now, in these political theories, the corporate constitutionalism then talks about the constituency groups of corporations, or this corporate constitutionalism is another aspect of the political theories, and this proposes that the constituency groups of corporations define conditions of the responsible use of power by corporations and channel organizational power in a supportive way, and to protect other interests against unreasonable organizational power. This says that social responsibilities of business arise from the amount of social power that they have. You have power, you have to be responsible. Groups of political theories, there are two broad categories. The first one is integrative social contract theory. Now, and the second one is corporate citizenship. What is integrative social contract theory? Donaldson and Dunphy proposed this, and they say that this is the assumption of a social contract between the society and the business. According to the integrative social contract theory, there is a social contract between the society and the business. Social responsibilities come from consent. The community has to consent to you having a social responsibility. There are two broad types of social contracts. One is the macro social contract, which provides rules for any social contracting. These rules are called the hyper norms. They ought to take precedence over other contracts. So everybody is bound by these rules. They take precedence. Everybody, irrespective of the context they are in, will follow these rules, and by way or by virtue of these rules, you have a particular power. So this is the micro social contract. Okay, that is the macro social contract. The micro social contract is, this shows explicit or implicit agreements that are binding within identified community, industry, companies or economic systems. They generate authentic norms, and these are based on the attitudes and behaviors of the members of the norm generating community, and in order to be legitimate, they have to be in accordance with the hyper norms. So these are more context based. The micro social norms are the norms that are given to us by the society. The social contract is dependent on the micro social the social contract in micro social norms is dependent on the context you are coming from. The community decides that you need to do a certain thing. The community says that your organization needs to do something specific for the benefit of this particular community. When we talk about macro social, yes, everybody needs help with their health needs, everybody needs help with their education needs, everybody wants to be treated fairly. So you have a responsibility to the society to do something for the welfare of people in basic areas. Now when we talk about specific areas, for example, in areas where I'm sorry, I'm running out of examples here, so I will not mention that. Anyway, so very specific issues, say for the protection of the girl child, again that is a macro social contract, but specific communities have specific needs, and you say, okay, within this community, this is what I will go towards. Okay, then next. The second group of political theories includes corporate citizenship. Corporate citizenship includes the profit, or corporate citizenship is the principle that says that profit-making organizations are responsible citizens of the community they flourish in. They have to act like citizens. They have to act like independent citizens that are going to be contributing to the society they flourish in. We will have a detailed discussion on corporate citizenship in the next lectures, but I just wanted to briefly tell you what corporate citizenship is. So that is all we have time for in this lecture. We will continue with some more discussion about the categories proposed by Garriga and Melee in the next class. Thank you very much for listening.